Joining us, Republican candidate for United States Senate, Kari Lake. Kari, welcome back.
Good to be here. Good morning, Mike, and good morning, everybody here in Arizona.
Let's talk about the remaining days that are left. I know it's a sprint to the finish. Give me your best pitch, not about why not to vote for your opponent, but why should the undecided voters that may be left that have not filled out their ballots or they're waiting to go to the polls, why should they vote for Kari Lake?
Well, because I want to go to Washington, D.C. and help turn America back on the right track and get things safe again. I want to help secure the border, and I'm ready to go work with President Trump to make that happen. I want to make sure we bring back that strong economy where everybody was doing better. Didn't matter your skin color, where you're from, man, woman, didn't matter. And I want to make sure that our kids are getting a quality education and not this kind of indoctrination that they're getting in school. They got to be ready for the workforce when they get out of school, and our schools should be doing a better job. There are some that are doing a great job. Want to make sure that all of them are doing better. And I want to see that we're not funding wars all over this planet. I want to see that we are actually spending the money to get America back on track. And we're not going to get that with the people that are currently in office. They're the ones who created a lot of these problems. The border was secure, Mike, before Kamala Harris took office and before Ruben Gallego. He was rubber stamping it every step of the way, that open border, and voted for all of that open border policy and legislation.
Now, most polls are showing former President Trump with a slight lead in Arizona, and that you're a few points behind Ruben Gallego, but there's you sent out a poll that shows that you are actually slightly ahead of Ruben Gallego, and former President Trump has a pretty significant lead. Where's the disparity in that polling?
I think our internal polling is accurate. I really do. It shows me up a few points. President Trump is doing really well in Arizona. And the poll I really go with is the people I talk to on the ground. I'm around more Arizonans every day and every week than anybody in the country. And I'm seeing a huge energy and a shift in people who are moving toward President Trump, those people who are undecided. But the people who are totally decided are out there. They're getting out. They're voting early. And so I feel comfortable about where we are. I saw yesterday one of the public polls showed that I was up. So the public polls are now finally figuring out and getting a better feel for what's happening. And President Trump is up. Kamala Harris is not popular in Arizona. No matter what some of these pollsters try to tell you, she's not popular in Arizona. Her policies have hurt Arizona. Our economy is struggling. We're looking at an open border, a fentanyl crisis, and the people of Arizona have said enough is enough.
When you look at who's left, these undecided voters, and we talked about them a few moments ago, what is it? Why are they undecided? I mean, if you have internal polling, why are people undecided at this point with the stark contrast between the candidates, between you and Ruben Gallego, and between former President Trump and Vice President Harris? Who could be undecided? What is it that keeps them from deciding?
I actually think undecided voters are people who just don't want to tell the pollsters where they stand. And they're very likely to be going. If you look at, I've seen some data that says 77% of the undecideds are going to go toward Trump, and they're going to vote Republican right on down the ticket. They're just people who are kind of, of that mode mindset of none of your business, And so they're saying they're undecided. I talked to somebody yesterday who said he had been polled, and he said he was an undecided voter, but he was at our event. He had a Trump hat on, and he is ready to vote. As a matter of fact, I think said he was going to vote yesterday. So I think undecided voters oftentimes are people who just don't want to reveal who they're voting for to a pollster.
So the news story came out yesterday about your court case, so I've got to ask about it. Your CNN interview has been well publicized and where that went about the 2022 election. It's not about asking you if you won or lost that election, but there is a court case pending that's going to happen the day after the election here. What do you want to gain from that lawsuit and from that Supreme Court hearing your case?
We told the people of Arizona that we would take our case all the way to the Arizona Supreme Court, and I'm doing exactly that. Sometimes the courts move slowly, and unfortunately, the courts move slowly. But I want to make sure that we're pushing for elections that are run honestly, Mike. I want to make sure, we're seeing right now all kinds of crazy stuff happening all over the country when it comes to these elections. We just want to have honest elections where all voters feel confident that their one legal vote counted, and we don't have any shenanigans. And so we're pushing to make sure we have honest elections. I want liberal Arizona votes to count, and I want conservative Arizona voters' vote to count. And that's what we're hoping for.
Kari Lake is joining us, Republican candidate for the United States Senate. So this isn't about winning the governor's office for you. This is about justification. If you're successful in this, what do you hope to gain?
Like I said, I'm hoping that the courts will move and say that the elections weren't run properly and make any changes that they can. The courts can decide what the remedy is. I mean, if you know anything about law, you have to have your original case in its original form. You don't get to just change it up because we're closer to this election. And so it's our original case moving through. And originally, you know what we were asking for originally right after that election. So we have to move the original case through, and this is the original case. It's hitting the Arizona Supreme Court, and they will decide what the remedy is.
Yeah, and so that's the last question on this, and I want to move on, is then what happens if you win the Senate race and you're successful in your court case? I mean, what could be the ramifications of that happening?
Well, I don't know what the Arizona Supreme Court is going to do. It's going to be up to them to decide what the remedy is, and they will choose that. So you're asking me to get into the minds of our Supreme Court members, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm focused on this election. I'm focused on getting people out to vote early, and I'm focused on getting to Washington, D.C. and working with President Trump to push an America First agenda that brings back that strong economy, that brings manufacturing back, hopefully here to Arizona and other states in America. And I'm working to secure the border first and foremost so that our streets are safe and we are not allowing unvetted individuals into our country.
Do you think that Americans are ready to move past the contentious rhetoric? I mean, obviously the term Nazi and fascist has been thrown around. Both sides of the aisle have been vitriolic towards the other. Are we at a point, you talk to voters every day, are we at a point where they're ready to talk issues and not personal attacks? And how do we get there?
Well, I think a lot of the vitriol has been coming from, unfortunately, people like Kamala Harris, and it's been coming from my opponent. He called Trump voters the worst people in the world. He called Republicans the worst people in the world and dumb. And I don't think that's the best way to go about campaigning when you're trying to represent those people. I want to reach out to every single voter, whether you voted for me or you didn't. I want to make you proud in Washington, D.C. and represent Arizona well so that Arizona becomes a more prosperous state, a safer state, and that we are represented well in Washington, D.C.
Kari, I always enjoy talking to you. I wish you the best, and I hope to talk to you after the election.
Thank you. I'm urging everyone to get out and vote early. If you have a mail-in ballot, bring it to a drop box or a vote center. If you put it in the mailbox today, it may not make it in time. So bring it to a drop box or a voting center and get out and vote early.
Thanks, Kari. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.